Welcome to 5 Minutes of X, where we review every X-Men appearance, even the ones where they're replaced by robots for no good reason. Welcome back to 5 Minutes of X. Today we're diving into Amazing Spider-Man Annual Number 1, originally published on June 11, 1964. Of course it was written by Stan Lee, but this time it has art by Steve Ditko. So instead of spotlighting a character today because none that I've not already reviewed show up in this particular issue, let's talk about something bigger. Why the original X-Men comic eventually stalled out and went into reprints for years, all the way until issue 94. By the late 1960s, the X-Men book wasn't selling the way Marvel had hoped. The team lineup, I guess, was feeling stale at the time. The stories weren't evolving much, and compared to like Spider-Man, the Fantastic Four, the Avengers, they just didn't really connect with readers in the same way. Issue 66 is the last new story. Starting with number 67, Marvel shifts straight to reprints. It's the same stories. They do new covers. They do some weird pinup like feature issues, but no new content for almost 5 years. During that quiet period, some of the original X-Men popped up elsewhere, like Beast joined the Avengers and starred in Amazing Adventures, where he famously mutated into his gray furry form and later turned blue. Angel and Iceman appeared in The Champions, which was kind of a short-lived team-up book alongside Hercules, Ghost Rider, should have written this down, I think Black Widow. Even when the main title was idle, Marvel was still finding ways and places to put these characters, just not like as a unified team. It wasn't until 1975 when Giant Size X-Men number 1 came out that everything changed. That issue introduced a brand new team, all the characters are super famous today, but that team consisted of Storm, Nightcrawler, Colossus, Wolverine, a few others, but in a new direction. A few months later, issue 94 picked up where the reprints had left off and launched what would become one of the most influential runs in comic book history. So while X-Men number 1, being the first, is normally the most sought after X book to collectors, Giant Size X-Men number 1 and X-Men number 94 are usually like right behind that book in terms of how much people want them. While Stan Lee helped create the foundations of the X-Men, it was Chris Claremont who turned them into legends. His stories brought emotional depth, long-running arcs, layered characters who felt real. The stakes were higher, the themes were richer, and the book finally lived up to its potential. Without Claremont, the X-Men might have stayed a footnote. With him, they became an absolute phenomenon. It's literally why I'm doing this project. Chris Claremont is one of the greatest writers ever in comic books. It's just absolutely amazing. So the Amazing Spider-Man Annual Number 1, long title, sorry. It's a double-sized issue, and the main point of the entire issue seems to be giving Spider-Man a splash page showdown with each member of this newly formed team called the Sinister Six. The Sinister Six are a super villain team of Spider-Man's most popular villains joining up to fight him kind of like all at once, I guess. The six are Dr. Octopus, Doc Ock, Vulture, Electro, Kraven the Hunter, Mysterio, and Sandman. I almost forgot Sandman. For those pages alone, this book is actually worth flipping through. It's great. But getting there, it's kind of a different story. Things kick off with Peter Parker mysteriously losing his powers. There really isn't any explanation as to why this happens. It just subtly, like, he just can't stick to walls or dodge anything. He falls off a building and lands on a flagpole. And the Fantastic Four, cruising by in their silly-looking sky car, look over. They decide he's just showing off and keep flying. No help to him. Meanwhile, Doc Ock rounds up the rest of the villains, convinced that they can finally defeat Spider-Man if they just take turns, one at a time. The logic here is super sketchy, super shaky, but each think that they can take him solo while accusing each other, the other five, that they have failed doing so in the past and that they're awesome. I don't know, it's weird. The confidence here is admirable, I suppose. Whatever. Back on the ground, Peter is in full Sad Hulk mode about losing his powers and about not saving Uncle Ben by intervening. At the same time, Aunt May and Betty Brant are kidnapped. Vulture tells J. Jonah Jameson to get the message to Spider-Man. JJJ says he'll publish it, but he also tries to contact the superhero community directly. There's this panel of him yelling into a phone at various teams. It's super fun. It includes Captain America, the Fantastic Four, a few others. That's already weird enough, but then the Human Torch lights up the sky with a fiery message for Spider-Man. Like this is some sort of Marvel-themed bat signal. It makes no sense. It's even worse because the X-Men, they're in the danger room in Westchester, which is not in New York City, it's in New York State, when they see the skywriting out the window. Why would skywriting over Manhattan be visible in Westchester County? Unknown. Eventually, while fighting Electro, Peter's powers come back. Again, no explanation, just like when they went away. There's just no explanation there. He notices that he can suddenly dodge again and gets right back into the fight. What follows is like this beautifully illustrated series of fights as Spidey takes on each villain one after the next, collecting clue cards that lead him to the next enemy. We also get a quick moment where Mysterio uses robotic X-Men to attack Spider-Man, which technically gives us another few panels of the team, even if it's just robot versions. Finally, Spidey defeats everyone, rescues Aunt May and Betty, and we wrap up with some pinups and bonus Spider-Man material in the back. All that art is amazing, but it's not really a story-related item. My review of this book is kind of weird. If you're looking here for like big Ditko splash pages of Spidey punching dudes, this is your book. It's great for that. Every villain gets a cinematic full-page showdown. Every one of them is glorious, but the connective tissue is rough. The pacing drags. The plot is barely held together. What frustrates me most is that this book feels like a thin excuse to plug the rest of the Marvel catalog. Every cameo has a little footnote saying, read more in Fantastic Four or X-Men or Strange Tales. Instead of building a story, it's like building a sales funnel. As for the X-Men, well, one Danger Room panel and a couple fake robot versions, and that's kind of it. Honestly, they could have been left out and nobody would even notice, but they wouldn't have gotten to put that little thing at the bottom saying, read the X-Men. Still, credit where credit's due. The splash pages are great, and it gives us our first real Sinister Six lineup, which became a big part of Spidey's mythos. But this is definitely one of those issues that's more historically important than actually good. You've survived another session in the Danger Room. For more character info, reading lists, and whatever other nerdy projects I'm tangled up in, head over to Jordy.com. New episodes drop Wednesdays at noon and Fridays at 4 p.m. Eastern. Remember, sometimes the real villain isn't Dr. Octopus. It's the editor cramming in 6 unrelated cameos and calling it a story.